Welcome back to the Think Bigger Real Estate Show. I'm your host, Justin Stoddard, and I am thrilled to be here with a very dear friend of mine, Shelley Z. Her full name is Shelley Zavitz, but she is an author who has written a book that I think is going to change the space, change the lives of so many people that come into the real estate industry and don't have the success that they want. She is an author, and I am convinced that she's going to be a best-selling author. I've read a portion of her book, and it's funny, it's engaging, and it's got tons of value for new agents. So if you are a new agent or if you know of a new agent, you're going to want to listen very carefully to today's episode because we are going to be not only giving you insight from Shelley's writing of this book, but we're actually going to be offering an option for you to get the first chapter for free. So stay tuned for that. So let me go ahead and introduce Shelley Zavitz. Shelley has been in the business for 3.5 years. Her book releases June 3rd. As I mentioned, on all major bookstores. You'll be able to find it on Amazon, on Audible. It was actually published by Harriman House. And she wrote it 1.5 years ago, and it was about her journey, her first year in the business. So first and foremost, thank you, Shelley, for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me. Nice to see you.
Good to see you too. You know, Shelley, in a very short period of time, has become a very dear friend of mine. I have so much respect for her. And for those that know me, my passion is to help real estate agents to think bigger so that they can have the options in life and the impact in life that they truly desire to have. And when I met Shelley, she helped me through some things. I'd been an aspiring author, and I probably would have done it at some point about 50 years from now. And Shelley said, let's meet. I think I can help you. And in a matter of really minutes, I was looking at her saying like, oh my goodness, Shelley, you are a genius. Like, and stuff was just kind of flowing. And it really wasn't me. It was her method. So she takes the complex and makes it very simple. So I'm absolutely convinced that that's the experience that real estate agents are going to have when they read this book, this industry of complexity, right? Where you've got so many things you're trying to learn. Shelley's taken that complex and made it fun and funny and inspiring. And so first and again, maybe second, because I already said first and foremost, Shelley, thank you for dedicating the time to write this book. So I'm excited to get into this interview with you. It's going to be a good one.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, that's an amazing introduction. And I've never been called a genius before, so thank you.
Hey, you keep it up, you're going to get it again. So be careful. So let's talk about just some questions that I know I've had that kind of we've discussed lightly, but I'm really excited for you to share it with the Think Bigger audience, which is, let's fast forward. Shelley, let's say you and I continue this friendship. I'm sure we're going to, whether you like it or not. 5 years from now, we're having a conversation. Okay, fast forward 5 years from now, and we're looking back to this day when we were on the brink of this book releasing. What would have to happen with this book in order for you to say, man, that book even exceeded my expectations, or it did what I hoped it would do for agents and for the industry? Describe to me kind of what your aspirations are in writing this book.
Well, I think that in the beginning, my whole point was to try and lift the industry up a little bit. Everybody knows when you get licensed, nobody tells you how to start the business of it. You know, you can get coaches and there's expensive programs you can pay into, but I personally could not find a book or anything to tell me, you know, now that I'm licensed, what do I do now? So my intention with the book was to try and give the basic pieces of business over 12 chapters and basically outline like what happened to me, and there was lots, but also, you know, what things could I have done or did I do to implement the first year that helped my business in the basic level so I could build the rest on top of it. Because if you don't have that, you can't be successful. So I think that looking 5 years from now, it would be great if we could, you know that new agents are being supported and there isn't a group of people out there representing buyers, representing sellers that don't have the basic skill set of business. And that was my intention, is just to try and like lift that level of let's all think like we're in a business. So
it is interesting. You bring up a good point, is that there are a lot of coaching programs for real estate agents. They're not always inexpensive. And when you're first getting started off in real estate, you're hit with all kinds of fees, right? I mean, it's not like you have a bunch of revenue. Most real estate agents don't come into the industry wealthy to where they can invest deeply in their business in some big coaching program. Exactly. And so you're right. That first year or two is really lonely, right? I mean, is that kind of what you experience?
It sure is. I mean, it's sort of, I think that most of the reason why agents don't succeed is, they don't have a budget to be like, the fees hit you right away, right? They don't have a budget to kind of survive the first 6 months, and then they drop out because all they're thinking about is transaction. How am I going to make money so that I can survive, pay my bills? And unfortunately, real estate needs to be about the client, needs to be about their experience, how they feel. So if the first 6 months you're like full of anxiety and you don't know what you're doing, and then you're showing your client you're full of anxiety and you're going broke, they're going to feel all that. And people only work with people that they trust. And if they don't trust you to do right by them because you're only thinking about their experience, chances are they're not going to work with you. So I think that the whole point of when you first get into the business, know that you need to save a sum of money, because you're not going to get your first deal maybe for 6 months. It's hard to know. Maybe you'll get it. I was lucky enough, I got one in the first month and a half. So grateful for that. So grateful for the people that helped me do that. But that's not everyone's experience. So I really feel, when you first get into the business, have a sum of money saved up, and then know that, your friends and family, until they trust you to know what you're doing, they're probably not going to refer you. So you're going to be working with a stranger.
I was listening to Tony Robbins recently talk about people buy a feeling. They don't buy things. They buy a new situation. They buy, and oftentimes they buy these new situations, whether it be a home or whether it be a program or whether it be a book or whether it be a training course, as I'm putting together. People they don't buy things. They buy feelings. They buy better, like confidence to move towards something and permission to be somebody. And it's interesting what you pointed out there, which is, there's a lot of insecurity when you're getting started of like, did I make the right move? Is this really what I should be doing? Am I the right person to be helping people with their largest transaction? And if you're feeling that, there's a good chance that the people that you're trying to persuade to use you in a transaction can sense that.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's this self-perpetuating negative cycle almost of like, if you don't have that, if you're so concerned about surviving yourself, it's hard to emanate that feeling of like, I got you, right?
Right. Absolutely. Because, and I went through that. I think I mentioned it about 18 million times in the book, how I was struggling with my confidence, and I was struggling with, why should they use me when, just to give you some background, I moved to Portland. I knew 4 people. I am Canadian. So like, it was a new country, new city situation. I didn't have any marketing budget. I had a great partner, which thank you. And I basically was starting with absolutely nothing. And it was really hard in the beginning. Like I would say who I was then and who I am now are light years away from each other, mostly in the confidence part, because I took some knocks on the chin. And when you realize that you're going to be looking at failures, you're going to be looking at your hurdles, and you kind of get to know more about yourself, that you need to just overcome that and find a way to help your client in spite of yourself. I don't know if that makes sense at all, but as I did that, the more I grew, the better I got, the stronger I got, the more confident I got, and the better my business became, because back to that experience. Right now, most of the reviews that I have are like, I couldn't do that without Shelley. I couldn't have gone through that process without her. It's about the experience. I agree 100%. So.
I actually spoke with an agent, sells north of $20 million a year in real estate, very experienced broker, been in the business for 25 plus years. Mm-hmm. And I, at one point mentioned to him that I sense that it's lonely being an agent. I remember being a high-end home builder, running a company, and there was some loneliness there. And so I asked, I said, is that real? And he stopped and he said, no one's ever said that, but you're exactly right. This industry is very lonely. Even when he produces at that high level, right? You go out to show a home, you go out to list a home, you're oftentimes working by yourself. And, one thing that I could see this book really doing is being somebody's companion during that first year in the business of like, okay, I'm not a loser because I feel so lonely. Like even very successful agents.
That way. That would make me feel so good. Actually, if that was the response to this book, back to your first question, 5 years from now, and somebody felt that way about this journey that I brought them on in my book, wow, that would be amazing. Can you make that happen somehow?
We're working on it. I'm convinced that not just one person's going to have that. I think anybody that reads this, I mean, your opening in the introduction, you talk about how you're so excited. You put on your nice suit and heels and walk to the office, and like the person at the front desk, you're like expecting this, maybe this like welcome party, like congratulations. Yeah. And she's like, here's your keys, like kind of over her shoulder. And then you got a couple mentors that walk in the office. You're like, these are the guys, these are the fellas that are going to help me.
Yeah.
And you're like in the office and out of the office, and here you are, and you're like, now what? And
I think I checked Facebook.
like any responsible business owner would do, right?
Yeah.
It's actually a very similar story. Mark Fox, who now has probably 7 or 8 locations around the country that carry his brand and name. He sells, north of 250 properties here in the Portland, Vancouver metro area. He said that. He said, when I got started in real estate, okay, I open up my computer and then I ask, now what do I do? Right. And I think that feeling is like overwhelming and daunting at times of like, oh my goodness, what do I do? And I think it's not just on day one. I would imagine that there's times in year 3 and year 10 where it's like, now what? Now what do I do? Right.
I actually shared the first chapter with somebody who had been in the business for 13 years. And I asked her, it was before the publishing was completed. And I asked her, just give me some feedback. What do you think about like this? I'm trying to write from a place of empathy, like, what do you feel about this chapter? And she wrote me back and she said, this happened to me 13 years ago. Mm-hmm. So I think that it doesn't matter when you start. A lot of people will be like, well, the market's great. The market was bare, whatever. It doesn't matter because that experience, that loneliness that you talk about is going to be there regardless. And I think that, it's a very huge deterrent and a lot of people drop out because of that. And if I could inspire somebody to just keep going, have the savings and keep going, trying to get that next deal, I really feel that, if you just stay in it long enough, you're going to learn. And the other thing I would say, and I do talk about this in the book, is that you need to hire, I call it hire in, but you're not spending any money. You're hiring in 4 people, and those people are the mentor, the visionary, accountability partner, which everybody knows about, and the coach. And if you have those 4 people around you, it kind of makes it a little less lonely. I had those 4 people. I'm so grateful for them, and they really just helped me get through my first year. So I would also suggest that if you're in your first year, be around people that can help you.
Yeah, it's good stuff because you're not alone, right?
Yeah.
Let's move to this next question here. Why do you feel like agents don't succeed? And maybe we've already hit it. If you're like, I think we've nailed it already. Is there something else you had in mind when we asked that question that maybe we haven't talked about yet?
I think that if I gave any advice to anybody, and I used to do this, the president of my company used to send me out to talk to new agents. And that's actually one of the reasons why I wrote the book too, because I was meeting a lot of people. So I was like, well, why don't I just write this down? But I would say that the most important thing is that you need to start acting like a business on day one. You are the CEO of a company. Yeah. What things does a business do and act like right away? And I would implement that right away. If you just come in and you're like, oh, I just want to help people, which is what I did. Oh, I just want to sell houses. That isn't a way to be successful, because back to the reason why the people are buying and selling, this is a huge transaction for them. You need to act like a business. So that would be my biggest advice to anybody who's new. And the reason why they don't succeed is the mentality of you are a business.
I love it. So good. Next question here. Funniest chapter. Your book is inspiring, but it's also funny. Like I've only, I haven't had the good privilege because it hasn't been released yet, to read the entire book. But having spent time with you, I know you've got this amazing dry humor, and even the person who is a highly esteemed, I don't know what you call the person that like reads the book for you to make it an audible was like, holy crap, Shelley, this is funny. What was your what's the funniest chapter like that people have to look forward to?
Well, it kind of runs the gamut, I do have to say.
Everywhere, yeah, I know, I get it.
It's certainly not a fairy tale story.
Uh-huh.
It outlines a lot of failures, a lot of hurdles. I've had feedback of I made someone cry because they just felt for me. I've had feedback that they laughed so hard that they could barely handle it. A lot of people really like the first chapter because that's the one I had been sending out. I would say that there's another story that I talk about safety that will turn your stomach. And I've had lots of feedback about that story of like, wow, I didn't even realize how unsafe it can be to be a realtor.
Yeah.
So you kind of I take you on my roller coaster. It's a swing. So you're going to laugh. You're going to feel uncomfortable sometimes. You're going to be embarrassed like I am sometimes. Like, wow, I can't believe you did that. Because there's a lot of that. And then you're going to see and feel, wow, okay, so that hurdle was in front of her and it's in front of most new agents. And that's how she got through it. And I think that you're going to be happy for me in the end. But, it's not a fairy tale story by any means. So yeah. I would say that I really just hope that you're entertained, but also that you get nuggets out that you can apply to your business.
Awesome. Good stuff. All right, let's do signature question here. This time has flown, and I would love to ask more questions. We'll have to circle back at a later time. I want to hear kind of the origin story behind this. Okay. But due to time's sake, let me ask the signature question of the show, which is, what does Shelley Zavitz do in order to continue to expand your own possibilities? Like to be a big thinker, which you are, what do you intentionally do to make that possible in your life?
I would say that in my business, that's a tough question. In my business, I look at what a realistic goal would be, and I double it. And the reason I've had a lot of people tell me not to do that, because, you're never going to get to your goal. It's just going to crush your spirits. And my opinion of that is if I am visualizing what double my goal is and trying to, in my mind, build the path of how I could possibly achieve it, then it makes it easier in the future because I'm already kind of thinking about, okay, well, if I wanted to double, what actions, what things, what things do I need to implement right now to start that in the future? Because nothing happens overnight. We all know that. So it's like steadily like putting things into your business. So I think that's one thing that I do. And the other thing is every 90 days, I do a remarkability test.
Remarkability test. What is that?
It's basically every 90 days, on both sides, so both the seller and the buy side, I put myself in the seller's shoes or the buyer's shoes, and I think about their experience, and I think about how they feel, and I think about the market, and I kind of try to remember that when I'm taking my clients through, so that I am servicing them on a level that is higher than most. I'm hoping that's the goal anyways, because I really feel that, that experience is the thing that makes me different and the reason that people are going to refer me. And I'm so grateful I do get referrals from a lot of my clients. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I just think that those two things that I put into my business have been really helpful because they're pushing me to be better. And I think that's important. So.
That's awesome. Love it. Such a good answer, Shelley. I'm going to put up here on the screen for those that are like, get me that book, please. Let me do this. I'm going to put up here on the screen where you can go get the entire book. Again, it releases on Monday. You'll be able to find it on Audible. You'll be able to find it at all the major bookstores. NewRealtor365.com. I would imagine people can pre-order there, Shelley, or just get on waiting list, or what does that do for them?
You can pre-order on Amazon.com.
Okay, great.
Just put in my name; it should show it.
Okay, very cool. And then, I twisted Shelley's arm, and she has agreed to send me the first chapter, which I'm going to make available inside of the Think Bigger Real Estate group. So if you are a mortgage loan officer, real estate agent, and big thinker, join that group. If you're not, if you are in the group already, be watching for it. I'm going to put the first chapter in there, and you're going to fall in love with what Shelley has to say. And you're going to want to spend more time with her, and you're going to want to put this on your calendar. June 15th in the Portland market, Saturday from 4 to 7 p.m., she's doing a book signing at All Things Real Estate. So if you don't know where that's at, feel free to message me or reach out to Shelley. But All Things Real Estate here in the Portland area is going to be where you can go and kind of meet the author and have some light fare and enjoy really a celebration of what I think is going to impact the industry in a really, really exciting way. And I look forward to seeing you there as well. So Shelley, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. This was actually really fun.
Did I not promise you that? So it's interesting. Shelley is such a good writer. And this whole part of it wasn't her favorite idea, but I twisted her arm because I knew the impact that she would have. And I said, mark my words, afterwards I'm going to say, Justin, that was a lot of fun. So thank you, Shelley, for helping me get uncomfortable and starting down a journey for me that's going to be wildly helpful for the impact that I want to have. And also for pouring into this audience, the Think Bigger Real Estate audience. It's been a total pleasure having you on here. And I've got actually Connie Youngvera, who I know is a new agent. I'm going to put her question up here. She sounds excited about the book. So please do go get this, Connie, and tell any new agent and any others that are listening, any new agent, go to the Think Bigger Real Estate group, get the first chapter, and be excited for Monday. Even go pre-order the book on Amazon. And again, big thanks to Shelley Zavitz for taking the time to be here with us today, and super excited to get my hands on the entire book. So